Welcome back to another episode of Shifting Schools, the podcast where we explore the future of learning, leadership, and everything in between. If this is your first time joining us, you have caught us in the middle of our summer mini-series on the future of work. I'm your host, Jeff Utecht, and today we're diving deep into the conversation that's not just timely, it's transformative. Joining me are two powerhouse voices in the movement to reignite purpose and positivity in education. Jackie Insinger, a renowned leadership coach grounded in the science of positive psychology and author of Spark Brilliance, and Monica White, a dynamic school leader who has taken Jackie's framework and brought them to life in classrooms across her network of schools. Together, they've co-authored a bold new book, Spark Brilliance for Educators: Ignite, Engage, and Transform Your Classroom. But this isn't just another education book. It's a call to action, a blueprint, a playbook rooted in research and real-world results. Think less theory and more impact. You'll hear how they took proven strategies from the corporate world and reimagined them for schools, focusing on combating burnout, building community, and reigniting student agency. From pilot programs that slashed teacher burnout by over 25%, to students raising their test scores by double digits after finding their voice and purpose. The results are staggering. But more than numbers, this is a story about connection, about getting to the other side of the number line, about alignment, gratitude, the platinum rule, and what it means to truly be present in our schools today. If you're a teacher, this conversation will empower you with actionable strategies to create a Spark classroom, starting with yourself. And if you're a school leader, you'll discover a scalable model to transform your culture from the inside out. So whether you're listening during your commute, a planning period, or a rare moment of calm, lean into this one. This episode just might change the way you think about leadership, learning, and the future of our schools. And with that, on with the show. All right, welcome back to another episode of Shifting Schools. Excited today to be talking with Jackie, the author of the book, Spark Brilliance: How the Science of Positive Psychology Will Ignite, Engage, and Transform Your Team. And she has brought along a special guest of her own, Monica White, who you will meet here in a second. Thank you both for being here today on the podcast to talk about your book, about leadership. What does this mean for schools? Monica, really excited to talk about some of the initiatives you have going in your school as well. But Jackie, let's get started with you. Talk a little bit, introduce yourself, talk a little bit about the book, and then we can get into a conversation what this means for school leaders.
Absolutely. So thanks for having us here, Jeff. And so a little bit about me. So my background is in positive psychology, neuroscience, and interpersonal dynamics, really. I got to design a few different degrees around these areas that I love. And I work with leaders to figure out how do you make small tweaks based on all the data that we know people need to feel fulfilled at this point in life and positive about their lives and their work, to create these shifts that yield really big results in a minimal amount of time. So I have this lens and I work with corporate executive teams for about 20 years and do executive coaching and really measure results. So I create strategies for these leaders that take a minimal amount of time to create results for the leader, the team, and their organization, and frameworks around that. And so my book, Spark Brilliance, launched in March of 22 and really up-leveled a lot of the work that I do into corporations worldwide and seeing really big measurable impact. To transition into where we are today, Monica White, who is here, who'll introduce herself in a minute, used these corporate leadership programs in her network of schools with the administration and found a huge impact on their culture, which was so exciting to see how this transferred from corporate environment into education at that leadership level. From there, Monica, after seeing all these big impacts across all of her schools that she's the CEO of, called me at 5 a.m. one morning. And normally that's a very alarming thing, right? And instead she's, hear me out. I've got this crazy idea. And she said, what if we re-engineer your corporate program for the classroom?
Oh, cool.
And maybe this is the missing piece for students. And then I'm sure we'll talk about how all that evolves, but that's where we are now. Now we have our book, Get Spark Brilliance for Educators, that we just launched 2 weeks ago that takes this framework to teachers to implement in real time in the classroom.
Very cool.
I'll pass it to you, Monica.
Jackie always does a pretty good job of kicking us off, but really, Jeff, where Jackie and I collided, she's not wrong, is we spend so much time in education and the negative. And there's a big chapter in Spark Brilliance about getting on the other side of the number line. And that's where the positive psychology piece comes in. And if from my shoes and where we're at, we see teacher burnout at an all-time high. We see students that struggle more than we've ever seen students struggle. And then how do we just connect these two things through the Spark lens and make kids really see what they're all about and their potential? And then teachers have the tools in their tool belt to really pull that framework out for every single student. And we ran pilot programs in our schools that helped drive the writing of the book and everything else. And it was just magical what we saw from culture standpoint to kids. I had this one girl, I did some focus groups with the kids when it was over. Sure. And this one girl, she was a junior in high school, and she said going through the Spark activities was the first time I really had to look at myself in the mirror and see myself as a human and a person in the society. And all of a sudden, school made sense. My purpose made sense. Why I showed up made sense. And so we're seeing it actually flip kids into really looking at their potential beyond just the basic, what do you want to be when you grow up type of conversations. And so it's really been powerful to watch the transformation of both teachers and students through the work we've done, bringing this from corporate to the classroom.
So what does that look like for your school as far as you're talking about using this approach for both teachers and supporting teachers psychologically, which, as you were saying, we're having all kinds of, that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah.
What is happening with educations right now and mental health of educators, but then also taking those same principles and applying it to students themselves. Can you maybe think about, was there something that surprised you in the piloting of this, of the Spark approach, that you were just like, oh my gosh, there was an aha moment for either teachers or for students?
Jackie?
I think we both have different things that surprised us based on our lenses on this.
Sure.
I think what surprised me so much was twofold. One is when teachers are given these tools, and you'll see first line and last line of both of these books, is it begins with you. I think it fully starts and ends with you, and you have to do this work for yourself. You don't just execute with somebody else, and you need to receive the results as well. Teacher burnout from the studies, and we had third-party university validated research studies for these pilots of 500 kids, 50 teachers, like big studies, and control groups. Teacher burnout was down over 25%.
Wow.
And that was incredible to see in such a short amount of time with this focused system and this framework, that they felt such relief and such a sense of community with the other teachers. There's a lot of work on the community and the peers and the support system of the teachers themselves. The second thing that really shocked me is in such a short amount of time, this university group did study standardized testing, baseline, and then to measure change. That part, I didn't expect to see any real significant difference in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
On average, math and reading combined from 6th to 12th grade was up 15.6%.
Wow.
In that amount of time, kids felt like this new empowerment, this new, this feeling of, there's something called the rise effect that we talk about in the book a little bit, where when someone sees your potential, you start to believe it in yourself.
Sure.
And I think that happened so fast for these kids that they showed up differently. Their test scores, standardized test scores, went up that much. So those real concrete objective outcomes were mind-blowing to me in such a short amount of time.
Oh, I love that. How about you, Monica?
Yeah, and Jackie loves to live in data land, and I'm more the educator, touchy-feely person. You got the qualitative side. Yeah. One of the things that I think took a lot off teachers, and we saw the teacher burnout, is we do a whole chapter on align. And it sounds boring and basic and almost oversimplifies this simple structure of really redefining what the role of the teacher is, what the role of the student is, what the role of the principal is, what the role of the parent is, and really focusing in on your school and redefining and communicating and sharing that with everybody. And I think just that alone made teachers able to lower their shoulders and kids able to rise up a little bit and meet in the middle. the same with parents as well. I personally even overlooked the alignment chapters we were doing it. And I'm like, this might be good, might be bad. It blew my mind because it really created a language and a framework around everybody's role, which I think that clear definition, and we always say it in there, clarity is kindness, created this sense of kindness, both teacher and student, that made them both show up for each other and understanding their own role. That was a really big one for me. And then the one that we end the book with, gratitude and play. And Jackie can give you the stats, but I believe it's 21 days of practicing gratitude can truly change the structure in your brain. And so when you take students that have really struggled traditionally in school, in life, and all of those things, and you walk through 21 days of that type of stuff to watch them transform when they sit down and really are introspective and reflect on the things that they're thankful for, rather than ruminating in the areas that they struggle with. And we do it in small hits, but when we did it in the long hit and the very intentional 21 days worth, you really saw a transformation of students through that as well, because they weren't spending time ruminating anymore.
Yeah. Did you do this through an advisory period? Was it like 21 days that every teacher in advisory focused on gratitude? Can you break that down? What did that look like in your school?
Yeah. So each one of our schools handled it a little differently because the book and the framework that we've created gives schools some latitude.
Sure.
But kids would have a choice, and we'd have gratitude boards up in some classrooms where they'd write it every day. Someone would journal it every day. And so teachers managed it within their own flair, because I really believe teacher autonomy is what brings out the best in everybody. But some would just sit there with a silent moment of gratitude for 21 straight days. But there was a conscious, and it wasn't a homeroom, yes. It was a conscious, slow down gratitude moment in those classes. And they still go back and reflect on them. We don't let it drop. We keep it going. But that 21 days changed kids and teachers.
Talk about such a simple thing.
I know, right?
21 days of just slowing down. Yeah. Just that idea of just slow down a little bit. What can we do when we just slow down in life? That's such a great way to do it. In the book, you say the platinum rule is foundational for everything that is part of Spark. Can you maybe talk a little bit about the platinum rule, Jackie, and maybe walk us through why, and then maybe Monica can talk about what that looks like in the classroom?
Absolutely. Isn't that great? You've got both of us.
I know. It's fantastic.
You do this part. Yeah. It's perfect. So the platinum rule is something I believe is the number one mindset shift that you can take action on to change the nature of all relationships in your life. And been working with using the platinum rule for 25 years with clients. And golden rule, we all know it, right? Treat others the way we wish to be treated. And most of us are taught this as this is the foundational rule that we use. It works really well for what not to do, right? It's like the guardrails for inappropriate behavior.
Yeah.
Those reminders. But in real relationships and real interpersonal dynamics, I don't believe it works. Because who's to say, Jeff, that you want support the same way I want support?
Sure.
Or that Monica's going to want feedback the same way I want feedback, right? That this is how we work. We know that we're all different, but we still default to this treat others the way we wish to be treated. The platinum rule is treat others the way they wish to be treated. And when we just flip that mindset of getting curious, how do you want to be treated? How do you like recognition? What is the best way to communicate with you? When you feel stuck, what's the best way to support you? What would feel helpful for you right now? And we don't ask those questions. We default to our own single lens on life, which best of intentions, that's all we've got.
Yeah.
Right? So we think we're doing something great. We step in to solve somebody's problem because that's what we would want, right? Somebody else might be like, you're dismissing me. Why are you trying to solve this? I just need some time for you to honor what I'm going through. So it actually repels the relationship. Or recognizing a kid in front of the rest of the class might be something that totally shuts them down versus saying like, how do you like recognition when you do something awesome? And just stopping and saying, how do you wish to be treated? So the platinum rule in all relationships, it's a small investment up front by being curious. But let me tell you, and I can work with a group of engineers at Intuit. And these people who seem very much not touchy-feely, soft like that, when they're like, wow, no one's ever asked me that before. I feel really significant. You really care about how I want feedback. Thank you. Across the board. And that changes the dynamic so fast when a teacher can ask a child that question in a classroom. They're like, I matter, right? So Monica, you can see but that's obviously I'm passionate about it.
Yeah.
No, this it's been a game changer as well. And with us, Jeff, one of the areas that we really focused on the platinum rule was through feedback and how kids would like to receive feedback. And What it really did, number one, it made the kids, it's truly a metacognition tool because they really had to sit back and break down their own metacognition to understand that. And they had to learn about that and think about their own thinking and how they wanted to receive the feedback. So it helps you from a metacognitive standpoint, number one. Then the other piece that it did was it gave the students the language or the common language across our entire culture to advocate for themselves when things weren't going okay, because they had that footprint to look at the teacher and say, man, I'm really struggling when you give me feedback this way. I'm more successful this way. And so teaching them and that creating that culture where the students had that voice really elevated their own self-efficacy, and it made it much easier on the teachers because they were getting further with the students faster because they knew the number one, the trigger points, but not just the trigger points, they knew the thrive points and how to really get the most out of students. We made a mistake years ago. We were doing this thing for credit recovery and we're trying to blow it up and all the bells and whistles. And we have the kids that one more credit down, and we work with kids that struggle, and we'd take their picture and put it on the wall, one credit closer or whatever. Kids hated having their pictures taken. So then they started bombing and not getting their credits because they had to have their pictures taken. And that's like the most awesome example of where we were practicing gold, not platinum, and it actually backfired on us. And so it's been really good mind shift for our educators to really think differently that way.
What has been the rollout for you, Monica, across your schools with this system? Is this professional development training? Jackie, are you coming in and leading, helping to lead like teachers through this, like this transition, or getting teachers on board first? And then we talk about what this means for the transition for kids. How does this work, trying to change a system or switch a system to this kind of mindset?
Yeah, I'll start this. And then Jackie, you take the whole model over. Because we've ran 4 pilots now. We're not, I wouldn't even call us in a pilot mode. We have our first school doing it on their own now because we've developed it where Jackie doesn't have to be in the room, but neither do I. We've evolved to that point. But what Jackie's created is so brilliant when we put all this together, because it really starts with the teachers, and the teachers learn it all about themselves first. You as a teacher, how do you like to receive feedback? And so the teachers have to go through all the same processes that the students do first as a team, together as a teaching team, individually, and then they bring it back to the students like a week later. So I'll let Jackie explain the whole model to you from her side.
Yeah, the way that the model is developed is very similar to the way in corporate. We've just shortened it and made it more classroom specific. But the way that I've found works the best, because a lot of things you can go to a training and you're like, this was amazing. And then you go back to your job and you feel like, wow, I'm so behind in my job because I was just on this training and now I have no idea what to do. And so it was just a very expensive use of time is the way a lot of people think of it. So there's a drip model that we use where the teachers do the work first, right? To really feel it and understand it and the deep level about themselves. Then they're like, got it, feel it, understand it. Now I'm going to take it to my classroom and drip this particular thing to the classroom. Now we're going to do this as a class. Then the teachers come back with our team. We do the next work with them and this next content block that's super focused, that builds. It's a very intentional order that's compounding. Then they go back to their classroom and bring it to the kids. So we do it in this drip. So it integrates and it builds and it compounds and it's really sticky that way.
Yeah.
So that's the nature of the drip. And we have, I even have them right here. Actually, we've got like the workbooks for the educators, the teachers with all of the work they do. And then the students get their student workbook that they get to work through over this time that has these different things in it for them.
Oh, cool.
So when you go through the program, every teacher and student
has the same thing. That's great. That's fantastic. It's such a great model of a way to, because a lot of times when we talk about things like this, we either focus on the teacher mindset or we're so focused on students that we overlook the teachers and we're just trying to do the mental health of students.
Hey listeners, a quick pause before we dive back in. We've been exploring the future of work all summer long, and one thing's become very clear. We can't talk about what's next without supporting students where they are right now. And as school mental health budgets are seeing severe cuts, safe and scalable solutions to reach more students with fewer resources are critical. That's why we're excited to highlight our partners at Alongside, an AI-assisted mental health skill-building tool that is built especially for K-12 schools. It is the only evidence-based tool of its kind, and their brand new 2025 Youth Mental Health Report is now live. It features insights from over 250,000 anonymous student chats from the past school year. You'll learn why teens say sleep is one of their biggest struggles, what's fueling the crisis in school-life balance, how boys are quietly learning to ask for help, why confidential AI-guided support is resonating, and how schools are using it to reach students early, safely. Curious to see how it works for yourself? Educators can set up a free demo account and try alongside anytime. Just head to www.alongside.care/shifting to download the report or to start your free demo to explore the platform hands-on. We're proud to have Alongside as a partner this summer, and even prouder to help shine a light on how they're making preventative mental health support for students and staff safe, affordable, and accessible to every student, even in the face of severe budget cuts and staffing shortages. The link is in the show notes, or again, you can head straight to alongside.care/shifting. Now, back to the conversation.
Jackie, I work in the corporate world a little bit too. And from the corporate world, this idea that you can't shift the direction of a company, only making sure the employees know what needs to be done and the leadership doesn't, or the opposite way around, to move the whole ship. And I think a lot of times in education, we lose that focus. I think so many times we get so focused on students, right? We're student-centered. We're so student-centered, and you're so student-centered that we forget about the mental health and the growth. I won't even say mental health, the growth of the entire system. And having a system like this that is congruent across the entire system, regardless if you are the superintendent, director of school, or CEO, down to the kiddos in the classroom, that we're all speaking the same language. We're going through this together. We're having a similar mindset and what it means to be successful, I think is just an incredible way to start looking at how do you move and change an organization or a school. Monica, you're talking about now you've got the systems in place where these schools are taking it on themselves. Is this that you're now looking at leaders for these schools that embrace this system? And so you've got that starting point where the expectation is that way? Is that part of where this is? Like you start looking for a different leader, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Leaders that believe in it and embrace it, because what we've seen is it really does take your school to the next level. And going back to what you were just saying a minute ago, Jeff, I was one of those principals that believed if I solidly took care of my staff like they were the greatest things in the world, which in my opinion, all my staffs always were, they would then in turn take care of the kids.
Yeah.
And I think that's what drew me to doing this work so much, because it's to what you said, it didn't skip a level. We took care of the teachers and we took care of the kids, and we created a common language and we created a common framework. Now that we're through all the models, Jackie and I have worked together really hard to develop a platform where we can do train the trainer model in the building, and they can take all of the knowledge, all of the resources, and roll this out to their staffs in their own way. And my goal from this all along is just how do we make teaching fun again? That's number one, right? Teachers have been so mired down, and for good reason. We've lost a lot of focus, and sometimes it saddens me when you're like scrolling through Instagram or TikTok or whatever, and all the teacher things are like the teacher memes about everything that's so bad or so wrong. There's that other side of teaching and being part of this profession that I think we need to make sexy again, and we need to bring it back and glorify the amazing work that our teachers do every day. So a lot of me is the gift to them of I say I'm a rafter, whitewater rafter, being from Idaho, you probably get it. Yeah. I always say, in that world, we say slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And we've gone so fast for so long, that we're almost going slow again. So let's slow down so that we can really make the connections and really get next level with both our staffs and our students to bring out truly their brilliance.
Yeah. And I think this leads into, we can have these conversations at all levels. I think of just where we are in education right now. Some of the work that I'm doing has to do with recruiting and retaining teachers. And to use your word, you are on social media, you are around, and being a teacher isn't a sexy employment anymore. Nobody wants to go into it. And so we're seeing less and less people want to be teachers. And then we have, I call it a leaky sieve, the amount of teachers that don't make it past 5 years because of the stress and the other things. And maybe we are missing a major point because we are so student-centered and student-focused. We're not thinking of the entire system and how do you support it. And I think that might be one of the areas that we really could use this idea of Spark to really slow down and think about. And with that, the last question I have for you, and Jackie, again, I'll start with you. On page 62, you talk about the need for educators to, quote, spend time in the present with students. Can you say more about what that means and what that looks like? And then Monica, maybe you can translate that into the classroom today.
Yeah, we're in this crazy fast-paced world, right? I picture it almost like I was talking to a corporate team this morning. My visual, it might sound silly, that I picture our world in right now is like the busiest street in New York City during the busiest time of day. And you're just trying to walk. You're like, sorry, excuse me. And you're just being bumped and pushed and you're spun around a little bit. You're like, which direction am I going? I feel like that's life right now.
Yeah.
And we're just trying to navigate this little skinny path and we're bumped around all the places. We're supposed to adapt and everything's fast and digital and bombarded in AI. And we are in such a loneliness epidemic, right? We are in a trust deficit. We're in a loneliness epidemic. We're connected to more people than ever, and yet we have no authentic connection. And so this idea of truly just being present, human to human, cannot be replicated by anything else. There's nothing else like it in the world. We need it as humans, as that sense of belonging and authentic connection. And as a teacher, you have an opportunity to be present in that moment and authentically connect with these kids who are growing up in a generation where that is so uncommon. That really showing them you matter enough to me to put everything down and lean in and focus with you. And we don't get that in our lives anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that is what kids need so much, to feel like I am significant. And that's where I see that.
Monica, what's this looking like in the classroom?
Yeah, in the classroom, here's a fun one. Just my husband's a history teacher and he teaches juniors and seniors, actually does government and econ. Today was their last day of school.
Yeah.
And he's a bell-to-belly guy. You're not going to come up for air until the bell rings.
Yeah.
And those are rare anymore, the bell-to-bell teachers, and he is. And today, the seniors had their finals, and when the last kid finished their final and put their pencil down, he excused them all like 10 minutes before the bell rang. And he planned it last night. He's like, what do you think about this? And he had kids stand up and crying and how much they loved him. And they loved the rigor, but they loved the fact that he slowed down and leaned into that moment. And so he let them go, and then none of them went. They all just stayed and hung out, right?
You've been begging for it all year, and now I'm letting you go, and y'all stay here.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was. And so he called to tell me the stories here about an hour ago. And he was kind of almost choked up because they're your seniors and they're going and graduating and on to the next thing. But that's the classroom piece, is holding that rigor and holding them accountable, because you expect a lot of them and you care so much about them, but you're being there and you're holding the bar high because you care about them, but you're leaning in and having fun at their level too and keeping it real and personal.
I love that. I love that. We're talking to Jackie and Monica, the authors of the book, Sparking Brilliance for Educators, Ignite, Engage, and Transform Your Classroom. As we get ready to wrap this up, Jackie, Monica, thank you so much for your time. If a teacher is listening to this and they're wondering what their next step is, of course, buy the book. A lot of this is in the book. Maybe, Jackie, you can explain if I'm a teacher listening to this, what do I expect to get when I buy this book? What's going to be in there for me?
Yeah, what we try to do is, we know we have the Spark Schools program for a school to have a systemic culture shift, but a lot of teachers are like, I just want to do what I can do and what I can control. So we wrote the book as a playbook. So every chapter has actions in it. And then at the end of every chapter, there's a QR code where a teacher can download a resource to bring to the classroom. So I think it's a great summer read. Wrap your head around, map out how you want to start your year and have a Spark classroom, regardless if your school wants to become a Spark school. So we made it very actionable for the teachers.
And Monica, if you are talking to other superintendents, heads of schools, principals who are saying, oh my gosh, I think this is something I want to bring to my staff, where should they begin? What should their next step be?
Yeah, so their next step would be to go to our website and send an inquiry. I don't know the website off the top of my head. I should know that. Thanks, Jackie.
sparkeducators.org.
Sparkeducators.org. Yeah, I could have got a few different ways with that. Send an inquiry and we'll get with them as soon as possible. And we just are excited to take care of as many people as we can.
Oh, I love that. I love that. We will make sure that links to both of those are in the show notes for anybody who might be listening to this. You can, when you get somewhere, go to the show notes, and we'll make sure that they're in other places too on social media and on the website when we share this out. Jackie, Monica, thank you so much for spending time today. Again, the book, Spark Brilliance for Educators, Ignite, Engage, and Transform Your Classroom. Thank you so much for being here on Shifting Schools.
Thanks for having us.
Jeff.
Hey folks, thank you again for tuning into this week's episode. I want to let you know that if this conversation has you feeling curious about the future, you can join me for a free 45-minute webinar coming up July 17th. That's going to be at 8 a.m. MDT, 10 a.m. EST, or 3 p.m. GMT. That free 45-minute webinar, July 17th, is going to be exploring futures literacy to help us better understand emerging career pathways. Futures literacy is a huge passion of mine, and I will be showing you how you can use it to better imagine multiple futures. We will dig into existing signals. These are clues about where the future world of work might be headed. And we'll also dig into some of the trends. These are evidence-backed pieces of research that show us something is shifting. If you'd like to join me for that free 45-minute webinar, you can register at www.shiftingschools.com. Hope to see you July 17th.
Hey there, dedicated listener. If you've made it this far, we know you're passionate about shifting the way education works. And Tricia and I appreciate you. If you loved what you heard today, we'd be so grateful if you could take a moment to rate and review Shifting Schools wherever you listen to podcasts. Those ratings help us reach even more educators just like you. And if you know someone who could benefit from these conversations, please share this episode with them. Just one person. Think of the impact we can make together. Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter for even more great content. And if you haven't already, join us at Camp Shifting Schools, where the conversations keep going long after the podcasts end. Thank you for being a part of this journey, and thank you for being part of Shifting Schools.